The implementation of ethnic studies as a curriculum in school has been a topic of discussion for some time, especially with critical race theory being more openly talked about now more than ever in our nation's strive for true equality. October 8, 2021, California Governor Gavin Newsom signed Assembly Bill 101, making California the first state to require a semester-long ethnic studies course as a graduation requirement for all students.
And one thing that becomes clear when you look at American history or gain understanding of American history is that the extent to which we've had progressive change in this country, or the extent to which African Americans, women, LGBTQ people, immigrants, people of color, working class people, the extent to which any of us have gotten any kind of consideration or respect or rights or equality in this country is the extent to which we've organized and fought for it. Like, change has always been the result of a mass movement and not like a gift of a benevolent politician. Ethnic studies is incredibly important course. This has always been a very diverse country, but historically, because of so many issues with white supremacy and discrimination, the history of the many different peoples and the contributions of many different peoples in this country have always been kind of marginalized in K through 12 classes. And so ethnic studies is just really an attempt to place our history, people's history, and the history of people of color in the center, to center that history and give space for people to acknowledge these great contributions, to discuss issues that are particular to these communities, and really celebrate and learn about our histories and cultures.
Well, I think that part of the generations, what we figured out is, what is the best way to approach addressing unity? And the best way is to start with young people and start with them teaching about each other. Expanding their understanding of each other's experiences and each other's background can only improve the way we treat one another and the way we perceive one another's experiences.
We want to see ethnic studies implemented throughout the state of California. This is a discipline like no other, right? When we say ethnic studies saves lives, that's exactly what we mean. For many of us before ethnic studies, there was no purpose to education, right? There was no real understanding about the social conditions that left many communities vulnerable and marginalized, right? So whenever you take on a field like ethnic studies, which at its very core is anti-racist, right? There is going to be a lot of pushback and a lot of racial trauma that occurs simultaneously to the joy and the love and the support that you get from the community.
We see a lot happening is that either folks really push to not have ethnic studies implemented, but at this point, it's already like a legislative mandate. So what we're seeing is now folks are pushing themselves in, labeling themselves as ethnic studies and not doing ethnic studies. Like, there are many people who have felt very alienated from the educational system and from just the system in general, that have become wonderful scholars and wonderful members of their community who are working to uplift the next generations.
This work is about anti-racism. And if that is not at the core of what you're doing, if it's not about the knowledge, expertise, stories, and counter stories of communities of color, it's not ethnic studies. Or if you don't see race, you cannot see racism. If we don't fight against racism, it will grow like a cancerous tumor.
In my work as a strategist around diversity, equity, and inclusion, and a lot of history work that I was able to study, I recognized that sometimes the stories that we hear in textbooks, in the classroom, come from very limited perspectives. And what is great about things like ethnic studies is that you get to see or hear or learn history from multiple perspectives, multiple identities, multiple types of individuals and peoples. And I think that is really important to really get the perspective of where our country, where our world is going in the future. To only have a limited perspective, it's going to be really hard to continue to evolve over time.
And the more you understanding about diversity, the more well-rounded you are as a human. The more I feel prepared that when you become the managers, the owners, the leaders, that you're going to be open to hiring people of different backgrounds because you understand what those things come with and how valuable they are. So it's really to make that an important part of who we are as humans. That's the only way we're going to get to a point where we can respect each other better, treat each other better, right? Be kinder to one another.